Just let we start to build, and onward to progress we surely will. Because now, more than ever, we must show discipline, tolerance, and production to build a strong and better nation. I say that is the main foundation. So come let us work hand in hand, because this is our land. Come my brother, come my sister, and let us build a nation together.
Come, my brother, come, my sister, let us build a nation together. Grenada belongs to all of us, and we must work extremely hard. And because we are living in a smart age, we must work smarter to achieve our goals, to achieve our objectives, to fulfill our plans and mission, to accomplish them all. I want to welcome you to this segment. I want to encourage those on Facebook, as usual, please share the live. Sharing is caring, but you must also click follow on the page. Become a follower of the page. Whenever I am on, you will get a notification. You will know. If you're on YouTube and you're following me there, subscribe to the channel. When you subscribe, then you too will be notified that I am on. I want to start off this morning by saying to you, do not be fooled by those who come out there with this false side or false face or false twang or just their fake self, as though they care about you, as though they want good for you. I could recall vividly during the time of the NNP, the 20-something years of the NNP, every time they win the election, they would transfer people, those who were prominent, and those who they tried to victimize, took them to court and won. Some got early retirement and compensation. Others just got early retirement. And I also recall folks who were on contract. They were sent home. And it was kind of customary when the NNP comes into power. There are some workers who were political, who were activists, who were front and center in the politics. So it was kind of understood, well, change of government, you came in with one and you have to go with one. And no one made any noise, said anything about that. Folks just accepted it because it's kind of the norm. That is what's supposed to happen. Your government go, you go with them, your party, because you're a known political activist or a person in the front of the whole political chain. But there's a certain individual and his supporters now criticizing that every step of the way. In fact, the man is blue. Well, why the trade unions are not talking? Why those who were talking before not talking about the claims made by those obstructionists that they are being sent home? But I happen to unearth a piece of audio where the said individual made it clear that if you are a political activist or you're an upfront person with the politics and the party, you clear cut, once your party loses, then you go. And if you're a non-performer, even worse, right? So let me play that for you first and foremost this morning. Listen.
Prime Minister, I want to ask one more question. The talk on the ground that a number of prominent people within the public sector have been sent home and replaced. I want your comments.
No, that is impossible.
Right. So firstly, the reporter started off by saying Prime Minister. At the time, this individual was Prime Minister of Grenada. So the individual is no longer Prime Minister of Grenada. But at the time he was asked that question, he was Prime Minister of Grenada. So that's something that you need to know. We have a new Prime Minister who is doing an excellent job. But this same individual and his pundits and surrogates are accusing this government of sending people home. So I wanted to play this piece for you because this same individual was asked when he was Prime Minister a similar question.
Prime Minister, I want to ask one more question. The talk on the ground that a number of prominent people within the public sector have been sent home and replaced. I want your comments.
No, that is impossible. It can't happen. And I'm going to be honest with you. You know, I like to be honest. And that certainly, especially when I'm dealing with issues of this nature, is so important. The system we have, it is not easy to interfere with a prominent person. We accept that as a fact. Government doesn't have the resources to send somebody who is prominent and pay them, suppose they're 40 years, and pay them for 15 years salary and then pension. We don't have the money. So the question of sending prominent people home is not on the cards. Let's accept that. What is on the card, my brother, is simply this. If you had contracts with the previous government and you are not performing well and you are just providing what maybe political service or lip service at the personal level for the politician of the day, I thank you for the service you provided to your political directorate. But clearly, if your contract has ended, don't expect me to renew it.
Right. So that was Keith Mitchell there. He was Prime Minister at the time. And right now, he's complaining, and his pundits and surrogates are complaining. But he realizes, well, the union's not saying anything. He realizes he doesn't have the support from other organizations, other people, and so on. So he was screaming aloud yesterday at that press conference. Well, why are they not talking? Why are they not speaking? Why are they not saying X? Why are they not saying Y? Well, that's the reason why. That's the reason.
Prime Minister, I want to ask one more question. The talk on the ground that a number of prominent people within the public sector have been sent home and replaced. I want your comments.
No, that is impossible. It can't happen. And I'm going to be honest with you. You know, I like to be honest. And that certainly, especially when I'm dealing with issues.
So he said, you're going to be honest. It can't happen. A person who is a public servant appointed by the Public Service Commission, they cannot just make that person go. So when you hear those NNP surrogates talking about, well, they make that one go, and they make this one go, and they fire that one, they're all lies. Lies. And then they would go on to say, well, they were working long, and they were public servants, and they were prominent, and so on. No. Nope. If you're a public servant appointed by the Public Service Commission, they could transfer you, but they cannot easily make you go. In fact, the public service is designed in such a way that the employee has more leeway and more rights when it comes to that. So I'm happy that he's saying, no, that can't happen. All right? But then he went on to speak about the contract workers and those who are politically aligned. And that is what we saw from the election to this point. If you're a politically aligned, you're on contract, don't expect that the government will just renew your contract like that without appraising you, checking you out, assessing you. Well, Keith Mitchell said the right thing when he was in government. Now he's in opposition. He's saying something totally different.
Of this nature is so important. The system we have, it is not easy to interfere with a prominent person. We accept that as a fact. Government doesn't have the resources to send somebody who is prominent and pay them, suppose they're 40 years, and pay them for 15 years salary and then pension. We don't have the money. So the question of sending prominent people home is not on the cards. Let's accept that. What is on the card, my brother, is simply this. If you had contracts with the previous government and you are not performing well, and you are just providing what maybe political service or lip service at the personal level for the politician of the day, I thank you for the service you provided to your political directorate. But clearly, if your contract has ended, don't expect me to renew it.
Right. So you're saying to me that there is a different measuring stick for the NNP and a different one for the NDC. That was Keith Mitchell speaking there when he was Prime Minister. So they're out there now screaming aloud, talking about this one sent home and that one sent home, and why the unions are not speaking up on their behalf. Well, the unions know that they do not represent them, one, and they are not permanent workers appointed by the Public Service Commission. And further to that, nearly all of them are political activists. They got that job because of their political affiliation. So they contract up, and their NNP supporters and pundits and surrogates who are saying to the NDC, right? So the NNP surrogates, pundits, and so on, saying to the NDC, well, you should renew their contract. You shouldn't send them home. But here you have the God telling them what he did and what should be done. I didn't make that up. In fact, I am sorry I didn't lay my hands on it earlier in the game when the noise was a little louder regarding who being sent home and who weren't being sent home. Because it's clear. If you are aligned with a party and you're a front person, once the party changes, you're gone. Nobody has to tell you that. So I'm happy I lay my hands on it, and every time they open their mouth regarding who being sent home, who being fired, I will then play this to remind them of what their God, their ground God, had to say. Because you cannot measure the NNP with a different stick and measure the NDC with a different stick. No. No way, Jose. So I thought I should play that for you because it's important that you hear what he had to say. Let's move on. I want to say to you, the NDC continues to work hard because Grenadians deserve the best. That is why the Honorable Andy Williams continues to transform Grenada, the Visible Transformation Project.
So we have the Visible Transformation Project. At first, that project was dealing with the lagoon. And then we really expanded that project into including Wall Street. And then we expanded it again to include the derelict vehicles and the boats and so on. And we also thought that we cannot, when we said to ourselves, we cannot speak transformation and not involve the youths. So we visited the TAMCC, and the plan was to get the students involved, and we did get the students involved. We asked ministers and caretakers to identify green spaces within their constituency, and they did. And what we did was to meet with the college students and give them the chance for them to design those green spaces. Why? Because we think once we get them involved at this level, then when we leave, they will be the one to take up the mantle. And also, they can feel a sense of pride that they contributed to the development of Grenada and to the beautification of Grenada also. And in a week or two, we expect to get back the designs. And I am excited because the students were also excited. And I can tell that, it's something that the country will be very proud of. But this is where we have to go, and we want to continue in that realm. And to keep on engaging and having the young people there to have a say in the development of the country. So the Visible Transformation Project is a project under MIT, and thus far we have seen it propelling in directions that we never thought it could have. Fort George is part of a tourism project that was funded by the World Bank. As a matter of fact, since 2017, and that project was on the book and was not implemented. And the Prime Minister gave MIT the project to implement. We want to turn Fort George, or to transform Fort George into a tourism site instead of a police headquarters. And people from the last administration told us, MIT, that project would have been impossible. But once we are involved, once MIT is involved, we turn the impossible into possible. And we started that project in January of 2023, and it's going according to plan. But the plan is not to end at Fort George. The plan is to revitalize, for example, the Moy Bishop residence, to revitalize Fort Matthew, to revitalize Onkuma Falls. When the tourists come to Grenada, we should be adding tourism sites to the package so that they can always have a new experience, and that their experience can be different all the time. And that is the idea. We want to look at our history, our historical sites, and restore them so that we can add to the value of the country and show the beauty of Grenada and show the history of Grenada, and to show that Grenada is much more than just the Granatang and the Anadeo. So at MIT, we pride ourselves as a ministry to get things done. Not just to get things done, but to get things done efficiently, cost effectively. And not just getting things done, but getting the right things done. And we pride ourselves as a ministry that has the energy, the ministry that will be there to ensure that projects are implemented, the ministry that is there to ensure that transformation is taking place, the ministry that is there for the people. And this is what we pride ourselves on. And we have our staff is very up to the task, and I can tell going forward, MIT, no disrespect to other ministries, but MIT will be the ministry that will lead Grenada to experience the change that it needs by working together with all other ministries.
Yes, so that's the Honorable Andy Williams. I remember vividly the Most Honorable Deacon Mitchell saying, if we succeed, it will be because the Honorable Andy Williams at the Ministry of Mobilization, Transformation, and Ministry of Mobilization, MIT, Transformation and Implementation and Transformation. It means that they would have done well, and they are not letting up on that. They're not disappointing. They're well on their way. Nothing would not stop the Honorable Andy Williams. He's doing a wonderful job. And yesterday at the press conference, that individual started running his mouth. But they realized that Andy's not even bothered. He continues to do well. All right, so let them eat.
I'm telling you, nothing they do will never defeat we. We control your destiny. I'm telling you, take your hands and point it up in the ceiling for me, please. I feel so irate. Wake up and I'm ready. Must make it ever steady. Setting goals is necessary while they hide it. Precious time they wasting like a disease, it starts spreading. Now it shift their eyesight. I say, I don't know why. Some will worry about a next man's life, try to match up a next man's stride. Fix your life, and as soon as I start working hard, you want to fix something must be wrong, you're mad. I don't come here for that, all you help me, but not dirty out. I'm telling you nothing they do. People, music, look, everybody chanting. They counting people business while we counting we blessed. This is counteraction time, so help me broadcast the message. No bad vibes on my side. We fuel by motivation. Keep sending out good signal. Pay attention to your audience, let your light shine. What's for you will be for you. With the real ones rooting for you. Just let your energy introduce you. Yet say I don't know why. Some will worry about a next man's stride, try to match up a next man's life. Fix your life, and as soon as I start working hard, you want to.
There, the Honorable Andy Williams continues to do well, and they can't stop him. There's a high level of jealousy on the part of the old cock and his team. They are jealous, they're envious, and it's showing out in the public. At that particular press conference yesterday, the individual, some individual who was hosting that press conference made these statements.
And what is frightening is that this government continues to almost be a fetting government. You know, every time you turn on any aspects of what they're doing, you're seeing a fete here, a gala here, a party here, a celebration here, and a fete here.
Right. So you heard what he said, yeah? But remember what he also said when he announced the election date. Don't forget that, you know? Yeah, man. He's vexed. He's not the one in the driver's seat to have fete and to have events and to have cocktails and to have national this and national that.
Be ready to vote Thursday, June 23rd. So you know what that means? What that means, if you do the right thing, we fetting Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Sister and brother, ready to vote Thursday, June 23rd. So you know what that means? What that means, if you do the right thing, we fetting Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Sister and brother.
Right, so, you know, it's amazing, eh? But it's jealousy. He's envious. He's jealous. That is exactly what is happening. Because that defeat is hurting him. Remember, he said so.
While the sting of this defeat hurts, and it really hurts, while the sting of this defeat hurts, and it really hurts, while the sting of this defeat hurts, and it really hurts.
Yeah, he's hurting. The licks, the sting of the defeat, it hurts, and it really hurts. It's hurting him. He's bruised. He's hurt badly, and he will not get over that very easily. He will not, and he has to deal with it, deal with that reality. The guy has been bitter for a long time. But the teaching hospital will happen.
We are seriously pursuing the national health insurance because we genuinely feel, particularly for major medical issues, which oftentimes has the potential to bankrupt a person, if we have insurance, you at least are guaranteed that you have the ability to pay for most, if not all, of the expense associated with that. Two, we are significantly looking to beef up scholarships and so on that are available to our nurses and other healthcare professionals. As you're aware, we also continue to look for scholarships opportunities for persons to study medicine and so on. But I think the big strategic one is the new hospital. And we view the new hospital from a revenue generating concept. We want to have a state-of-the-art hospital that allows the doctors at SGU to do their rotations here. If that happens, that means they spend 2 additional years here. That helps to boost the economy from a tourism perspective, but it also gives almost immediately our public access to a lot more doctors, even if they're trainee doctors, than otherwise would have obtained. I think two, we specifically want to target health and medical tourism because we think that feeds directly into our tourism brand and what we want to do. And if we do so, it means then that the revenue generated from this can help to underwrite the cost of running the hospital. And if we do medical tourism, then the medical tourism must be first class and world standards, which then means our public gets the opportunity to have first class medical attention. Three, our primary healthcare system, and make sure that healthcare services are available in our communities and that it's heavily focused on preventative healthcare, making sure people understand nutrition, make sure they eat right, make sure they exercise, make sure they take some of the primary healthcare issues like dental care seriously, starting from the schools and so on. So those are some of the things that we are working on. We are currently working with one doctor who's an SGU alumni who wants to open an OBGYN clinic here. He's made significant progress in that in terms of the site, in terms of the physical work on the clinic as well. We are currently reviewing the MOU to get that going.
Yes.
The government of Grenada remains committed to enhancing the livelihoods of all our people.
Of course. So the teaching hospital will happen. And they vex, they angry. But this anger that this man spoke about yesterday regarding the teaching hospital facility is not new, you know. This creature of a man spoke about that some years ago. If you don't know, let me just play the audio. He went, I think, in New York, somewhere in New York, and he spoke about that.
They are talking about building a new hospital. My God, you can't buy medication to save people lives, or you want to build a hospital for 100 and something million US dollars. You ever hear more stupidness? That man, you know, fools, my friends. Even dummy James will not be thinking like this.
Right. So that's the man. He has been bitter about those innovative ideas and plans of the NDC for a long time now, because he cannot come up with those ideas or innovative plans and programs and so on. You know. Don't fool yourself. These things are not just happening now. The bitterness, the anger, the venom. It has been with him for a long time. You just listen to this creature of a man and you get it. He's angry, he's bitter. And that is years ago this man was speaking about that. You know, when the first NDC spoke about the new teaching hospital facility. And this NDC administration is saying, look, this is a brilliant idea and we will make sure it happens.
They are talking about building a new hospital. My God, you can't buy medication to save people lives, or you want to build a hospital for 100 and something million US dollars. You ever hear more stupidness? That man, you know, fools, my friends. Even dummy James will not be thinking like this.
Right. So this guy has been at it for a long, long time. And he's just jealous, angry, bitter. And that is why he's opposing good things, things that are good for Grenada. A teaching hospital facility is a good thing for Grenada. The Maurice Bishop International Airport is a good thing for Grenada, but they criticize it. Right? St. George's University, a good thing for Grenada, but they criticize it. They said all kind of stuff about it. But look today. So the teaching hospital facility is a good idea. Very, very good idea. But I expect the NNP to criticize these initiatives because they cannot come up with it. The free tuition policy of the government, that too was criticized by that old cock yesterday, you know. Yeah. Why? He's vexed that every child who is attending to MCC and NULO, they getting the $810. The man vexed, you know. This bad-minded, nasty piece of thing vexed because all the students, all the young people who attending TAM, CC, and NULO, NDC did not discriminate to say, well, that parent or parents, they have, and this one doesn't. No. NDC knows that a child is a child, and everyone in this country pays taxes, and you should not discriminate against this one or that one. But that's the same thing that happened with the free textbook program. Grenadians tend to have a shallow memory, you know. Yeah, the NDC came up with this idea, this program, the free textbook program for all those children, all the schools, all the children, toothbagger, everybody. NDC never discriminated against who had, who didn't. In other words, a child is a child. But you know the NNP, they always about the poor and the vulnerable, the poor and the vulnerable. They don't like all you. They want to see you poor and vulnerable. I'm going to talk about that in a while. They want to see you remain poor and vulnerable. They don't like you. That is why the old cock has $19 million and you don't even have $19. He's living in a mansion. He has how many blocks and apartments and so on overseas. He has cash. And so is the other senior people within his ranks. They're wealthy. You have one of them with a house down in house and scheme, somewhere down the Grand Anse, looking towards the airport side, looking towards the house and scheme area, Circular Drive, frequented that area there on top of the hill. He's not even repairing the facility, just renting it and leaving it like run down. And he has about 4 or 5 other properties. He could care less about it. He has money to burn. And then they call you poor and vulnerable and you're proud of that. Move there with that damn stupidness. They're calling you poor and vulnerable and you're okay with that? For 20-something years, they're calling you poor and vulnerable and you're accepting that? I'll come into that in a while. So I am saying to you folks, it is important that you understand this creature, when he came into power, right, decided to remove all the private schools. So all the students who attended private schools, they were denied the books. Right? This bad-minded piece of thing said to them, well, your parents have money. Let them buy the books. Taxpayers' money that was actually funding that program, Lest you forget that, So when he came out yesterday with his anger and bitterness and jealousy, the guy is envious. He is grudgeful. He's, he nasty. He ain't good. He's full of hate, bitterness, because he got a good cut skin at the polls. He never expected it. So he's angry because you have all the students who are attending TAM CC and NULO getting the $810. Free tuition support. So they're getting that, government paying that for them. The man angry, This bad-minded piece of thing, he angry, he blue, because he wants NDC to say, well, your parents working there, your parents have a car, your parents have this, they have that, so you ain't getting. And the poor and vulnerable alone going to get. Because you see, his supporters are poor and they are vulnerable. That is how they call them. Scunty, beggy, free, that's all they want in this place. And then they come in now and say, well, in Grenada, you have the majority of people being poor and vulnerable. That is what they're banking on, They're nasty. There's a stench coming from them. They ain't good, those NNP. You see? That is what they're saying, They come now saying, well, in Grenada, we have more people who are poor and vulnerable. So they banking on that. So every time they open their big mouth, it's about the poor and the vulnerable, the poor and the vulnerable. They're taking advantage of these people because they want to get back into power on the backs of the poor and the vulnerable. But all you're not going to see that because you don't know statistics. Something has to be wrong with you. Something has to be wrong with you if you believe that the majority of people in Grenada are poor. That is what the NNP is actually out there saying now, you know. Calling radio programs and so on and saying, well, the majority of people in Grenada are poor and vulnerable. That is why they have been opening their mouth consistently. Because their hope is to fool people into believing, well, you know, these folks are poor and let's give them everything. Right? Everything. That's exactly what they have been doing while in power. So they decided the books, the free textbook program, they go water it down. And they just stop other books, you know. The NNP, the new nasty party, they ain't good, you know. They're nasty to the core. They stop ordering the books. So they water down the program. And after a number of years, when parents went to collect the books, they were not getting the amount. They started getting 5, then 3, then 2. And some of it, you know, you make pigays, you know, the leaves start, you bend up like all kind of thing. That is what they started doing. And then they say, well, they will give voucher, they will give this, they will give that to their supporters, to their people who they call the poor and the vulnerable. So firstly, they remove the students who are in the private schools from getting the books. Some Grenadians have a shallow memory, you know. They remove them from it. They say, well, they have, the parents have, and the parents this. And then they stop ordering books, bringing in books, because, you know, they had their friends with books too and so on, and you know what happened. Right? You know what used to happen. Don't fool yourself, you know. This character is dirty to the core, you know. This character is, you know, I see this character of a man as a tomb in the cemetery. It looks good on the outside. Well, that one start looking all kind of thing now. But it looks good on the outside, but inside is decadence, decay, rot, nastiness inside of it. And that is exactly, this individual don't like Grenada. He don't like Grenadians. He bad-minded. He don't like you. So he watered down the program. But they were segregating with that particular program. Segregation happened, you know. Where they say, well, you're rich, your mother working, your father working, and they have this and they have that. No book for you. The NDC introduced the program where everybody was getting, you know. So the tuition, the free tuition for the students at TAMCC and NULO really burning that old cock. Burning him. He bitter, he angry, can't deal with it. Deal with the fact that all the students, all of them getting the $810. Because every time they open, they bad mouth. Every time they open, the poor and the vulnerable. You don't like poor people. Or you don't like, the NNP don't like poor people. And that's a fact. You exploit them, in my belief. You take advantage on them. You use them like donkeys to get to where you want to go. Look at all of you. All of you all at the top within that new nasty party. You all are rich, rich, rich. Those are the top. Rich. And look at the supporters. Scrunty, beggy, deep in poverty. And they love to be called the poor and the vulnerable. If you want to get close to them, just call them poor and vulnerable. Huh? If you see some of them young ones and them, you know, 18, 19, 20, 21, 23, 24, 25, and so on, they come out from an NNP household and they bad for NNP and so on, just call them poor and vulnerable. They hugging you, you know. They embracing you, you know. That is what their parents taught them. That is what the NNP taught them, you know. The new nasty party. They love to be called the poor and the vulnerable. The poor and the vulnerable. That is what they love that. You want them? Call them that. Call them poor and vulnerable. And they're running towards you. Yes. Because the NNP, the new nasty party, have been calling them so for 20-something years. But you go and call some of those hierarchy within that nasty organization. Go and call the children poor and vulnerable now. They're fighting with you, you know. They're fighting with you. So I am simply saying to you, it is clear, for 20-something years, they have been calling these supporters poor and vulnerable. And they believe that they're poor and vulnerable. It's a mental thing, you know. They indoctrinate them. They inculcate that kind of teaching in them. You have to watch, to get that thing out, it will take a long, long time, you know. They love to be called poor and vulnerable. That is why when the housing authority came forward and say, well, you got the apartments, the NNP put you in the apartments, and they told you via letter how much you have to pay. You have to pay 30-something thousand, 40-something thousand, 50-something thousand dollars to get your apartment, to get it, to own it, for it to be yours. They started paying, then they stopped. Because the NNP taught them that, you know, they would not come after them. Everything is free, but they have no ownership of the apartments. No ownership. They don't own the apartments, you know, because they haven't finished pay. And the majority of them in the housing schemes and so on, they are NNP supporters. Because the NNP call them poor and vulnerable. And they put them there. And they tell them they have to pay. Some of them not even working. Some of them not even working nowhere. You could imagine, just think for a moment. And let me say this. The NNP want these facilities to become a slum, to become projects, to become a dump yard. That is what they want. That is exactly what they want for those facilities. You could imagine. You're calling these people poor and vulnerable. So they're poor and they're vulnerable. But you want the government of the day to give them apartments and give them, one-bedroom apartments and two-bedroom apartments for, well, the individual said he thinks that it could be 30-something thousand, between 30-something thousand and 50-something thousand for the apartments. That is what the individual said. Well, where the hell these people will get that money? Huh? Where they will get the money? That's what I'm asking you. Where they getting that money? Even if you say $25,000, they can't pay it. Even if you say $30,000, they cannot pay it. You put them in Dabo, in Subies, and in Frequenty. The majority of them have not paid a cent. You told them it's 30,000, 40,000. Come on, they can't pay it. But you want this government to put these people in those facilities. So you have a nurse, you have a police officer, you have a teacher, you have a young nurse, young police officer, young teacher, young prison officer, a fisherman who has a little boat and he owning something on a daily basis. You have a farmer who planting and, have a little cash coming in and so on. And they're looking for a apartment or one-bedroom or two-bedroom apartment. And they want to settle with their one child or two. So they want to go in that facility. What you telling me is that the government should allow those who you call poor and vulnerable, because that's the NNP supporters. That is what they call them. That's their name. Call them poor and vulnerable and they're happy. They grin in their teeth like Shasha Cat. Just call them that. They giggy. Call them that. Call them poor and vulnerable. Right? So you expect to put them in that facility among these people. They ain't working. They have no pay. They have nothing. They can't pay for nothing. What you expect will happen? They go break them people in them apartments. They go start selling drugs in the housing scheme. They go start doing all kind of nastiness, and they want to go there with social problems and ills. And tutus, a one-bedroom for 3 people or 2, then you will have 5, 6 children in that one bedroom. That is what they want to turn the thing into, a slum, into a project. That's what they want to turn it into. But I am saying to the government, stand firm. Stand firm, housing authority. Let them go to the lending institution. Go and get your money. You ain't working, but you want apartment and you want, how you going to pay? What you going to do to pay? Huh? You want to engage in the oldest profession on the earth to pay? Huh? That's what you want to do? Where you getting the money to pay? That's a question, They give you apartments already, you can't pay. because they're the poor and the vulnerable. That is how they call them. Those NNP supporters, just call them poor and vulnerable, according to the ground god. Poor and vulnerable, poor and vulnerable. They love that. They love to, you know, like you meet a lady and you say, hi, gorgeous, hi, beautiful, you know, and they feel good, they feel happy. Well, when you meet those NNP, you know, supporters, and once they're female, just call them poor and vulnerable and they go feel good. Call them poor and vulnerable. That's what they're telling you to do. They have been calling these people poor and vulnerable for 23 years and a half. And they accept it. They're happy. They're smiling. I tell you, they're smiling like Shasha Cat. Call them poor and vulnerable. Because that is what they have been calling them for all the years. You can't take that away from them just like that, you know. The old cock yesterday in that particular presser said poor and vulnerable about 10 times. Huh? But he's not poor. This bad-minded piece of thing, he's not poor. He's a multi-millionaire. Multi-millionaire. He don't need money. He has enough until, you know, yeah. That is the reality, you know. But he thought the poor and the vulnerable, the poor and the vulnerable. Call them poor and vulnerable. They love that. Huh? Come on. Stop all your stupidness. Stop it. Lift yourself up. Motivate yourself. Do stuff to better yourself. Make yourself independent. Be productive. The days of going to a constituency office and begging, that's over. There are jobs that are available. Come on. Get yourself out from this slavish mentality. You're in servitude. You're in bondage mentally. That is what they did to you for all these years. And they continue to do it while being obstructionists at this point in time. They want to come back into power. All your damn lie. It would never happen. It would not happen. Grenadians are smarter now. All you do is call them poor and vulnerable, poor and vulnerable, poor and vulnerable. Huh? This thing is simple, you know. You want to take these people, put them in a first. Look at what they have done to Dabo, Subis, and Frequenty. Because they were not paying, and you never make sure they pay. They mash up the door. They mash up the windows. They mash up the switch. They mash up the light. They mash up everything, the railings. They mash it up. Painting, they mash it up. They wreck it. So now Housing Authority has to find $2.2 million to go and repair the thing, you know. And then people ain't pay a cent, you know. Some of them have to pay 30-something thousand, 40-something $1,000, you know. They're bad-minded too. They ain't good. They're bad-minded. They're ruthless and brutal. They're wanton. They're irresponsible. Just as the leaders within that new nasty party. They're no good. It's clear. But Frico, when they get it free, they don't appreciate it. They can't cherish it. They don't know what it is to work for something and get something and take care of it. So you want to take them, the poor and vulnerable, and put them in these apartments among people who are going to pay for their facility. You're joking. Go to the lending institution and get your money. Huh? Go there. Stand firm. Stand firm, Housing Authority. Stand firm. This damn stupidness has to stop. We have to move from this barbaric thinking. We have to move from that. Come on. You get in a house that costs, an apartment that costs $100,000 for $55,000 and you have a problem with that? What's wrong with all you? All you think is so? Huh? What's wrong with all you? Watch. Anyways, let me just wrap up that program this morning. So when you see them, call them poor and vulnerable because their leader, well, their ruler, not leader, their ruler has been calling them so for 23 years and a half, and they love it. They love to be called poor and vulnerable and scrunty and beggy. That is what they love. You saw them during the election campaign. By the time they try to smile, they have no teeth in their mouth. You look at their clothes and so on. Some of them women, they whining down low and getting on lawless. They skirt, they pants, everything, boss up, juke up, thing up, all kind of whole thing. And they, you know, just when you watch your hair unkept, they toe, they fingernail, they don't take care of themselves. You saw them during the election campaign. They drink the rum and they get on like some, you know, That's how those NNP supporters get on during election day, you know. They were loose, but they ain't get it far. They ain't get it far. But boy, watch. Anyways, have a nice day. Folks, have a nice day. I'll be back with you tonight in the hub.